So, Shannon, why don't you tell us real quick, like when you go through this developer's notebook and what we're trying to do, I want to come on the record right now. I am not trying to say, wow, look at what I did, okay? I'm trying to share, okay? And I hope that it comes across that way. And if you see my underside, guess what? I really am human. I have frailties. But I also feel very driven to share this thing. And that's actually how I'm planning on protecting myself. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. And we'll kind of go from here. So.
Yeah, great.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question. We're going to kind of just switch gears right here for a second. If you were to have your dream piece that how you could actually enter this information, what would you say? So I already kind of have an idea of where I'd like it to go, but I'd love to hear what your dream is. Like, okay, if I have all of this information I need to get here and I want to categorize it like this and I want to do this, like, and I know you said you're trying to kind of follow my vision, but what would you actually like to, what would you dream up if you were dreaming something up? Meaning like, how would I record this? How would I do this? And what I'm kind of doing is we are recording this particular conversation. I'm just trying to get some ideas and get some flow.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I really haven't given that much thought at all.
No problem.
But obviously right now it's already formatted in a day-by-day basis.
Okay.
So that seems like that would be just a really practical, logical way to get it in there. But then I don't know if you would, maybe something different would be to keep the day-by-days as a day-by-day, like what did we do? So that tells the story of, hey, this is how it was developed. But then what if you took all your brainstorming to a different section? Because right now the brainstorming is under the day you brainstormed it at, which there is some overlap there. But what if you took maybe, I don't know, it's just a thought.
Yeah, bring it. It's great.
Maybe if you brought all your brainstorming to a different section and then you organize that by subject. Like, oh, here's the development of elements of time. Here's the development of the shopping cart. Here's the development of the interactive map, or just how we map the system at all. Here's the development of interfacing. And so then all of a sudden, you do have your day-by-day and your history, but that's more like, what did I accomplish today? What did I actually do? What did I develop? What did I work on? But then if you have your brainstorming searchable by subject, I don't know, maybe that would be more helpful, because I feel like it's really hard to go find brainstorming on a certain day or know the history of when it was made. But if you have it by subject, accessible by subject, that would be really cool, I think.
Okay, I love that. That's a great idea. And what I'm trying to do is just kind of see, like, how do we actually want to format that? Like, I kind of have this little vision in my mind of how I want to do it, but I love that. I think that that's great, and I would actually recommend that we write that thing down and kind of get it going that way. But I think subject is very important. What we're seeing is there ends up being like these characters, and these characters have relationships and stuff like that. But some of these characters actually end up becoming some of the major pieces of the puzzle, and basically the players in this game of business or in this game of data tracking, this game of time. And so it's kind of interesting. They're almost like players in a game. This was a random idea, and this was probably back in 2010 we actually had this thought. What if you actually introduced Adilas as kind of this map? This is right when we were first starting to brainstorm on this map. And we are starting to think almost in this 3D level. So if we have all of this data and we're virtually able to map back to it, what if you were able to show things growing and moving and morphing and actually show your accounting and some of your finances almost in this moving and morphing mentality rather than like, what is my numbers? But you could actually say, oh, look, your inventory was growing. Oh, look, you didn't pay for all of that. You had to get a loan. What happened? Like, almost this virtual 3D story. And then another piece to that was like, man, we almost have players in this thing. And that's where we kind of came up with the word players and application types and stuff. But basically imagine like inside of invoices. Could you imagine almost going on a virtual tour and you're like, okay, over here is invoices. And you open up this door and you see everybody kind of doing all these type of things. we're going to go talk to Tom over here. He's over invoices. Tom, what can you tell us about invoices? Well, as you can see, what we got right here is a lot of different this and this and this. Then you're almost virtually visiting these departments, and they almost have like this personality, if that makes sense. And then so what if you were able to then say like, okay, eventually what we do is we put all this stuff here, and then we send it over to the deposits. We go over to the deposits, and instead of it being like this crazy, crazy, crazy thing, there's different music, and there's like, it totally creates this totally different atmosphere, if you will, and it's calm, and they're getting things, and they're putting everything in nice and tight. They're going to send it to the bank. But like basically every single section inside of Adilas would have its own virtual feel, and they're almost like a movie type thing. Like it was just kind of a fun little brainstorming idea. But I think it would be kind of fun to kind of show the whole game of business and how these objects actually create. Just the other day we were actually talking, and I went to an author fair with my daughter, who's 12. She's trying to become an author, and she basically, for part of the thing, they actually had a guest speaker. The guy's name was Brandon Mull, M-U-L-L, and he was the author of Fablehaven, The Beyonders, Candy Shop Wars, and some of that stuff, and I loved it. He actually had a whole section in there that had stuff, and I recorded a bunch of it in my notebook right there, and he basically said there's 5 key pieces to creating a story. He was talking about world building and like how you actually do this. And one of the concepts that I love that he said, I'm going to get to these 5 in just a second, but he said a good fiction writer would come up with a concept of a car. A great fiction writer would come up with the concept of a traffic jam. And I was like, I love it, I love it. So basically what happens is not only is it a concept, but once you have this concept, how do these things actually happen? And what ends up being a cause and effect relationship from having this new concept. Say we didn't have cars and somebody came up with an idea of a traffic jam, you'd be like, I see it, I totally can see it. And so I loved how he actually described it, and actually I even called it world building. I thought it was very interesting. And it was basically sci-fi or fiction type based stuff. Here's the 5 pieces, really quick. Characters, relationships, problems and trouble, choices, like decisions, and consequences, okay? So those are the 5 pieces that he says that he always goes to. He has a story kind of in mind, but basically I'm going to repeat those really quick, okay? He said characters, and the more you learn and know these characters, that's awesome. These characters create relationships, even with the bad guys, if that makes sense, okay? Like there's a certain relationship that kind of gets formed. And because these characters are working together, they're able to overcome the stuff. So the third one is trouble or problems. And then the next thing is eventually they have to make some decisions or choices. And then finally, there are consequences to those choices. And so as you kind of start mixing and blending those different pieces, that's what he said makes up a really good novel. He's a New York bestsellers novel type person. And I thought it was very, very awesome. I was loving it. I was getting a ton out of his little brainstorming session. So here's a thought that's kind of interesting. What if Adilas is not for everybody? Would you agree if I said that?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, if you're a fly by the seat of your pants, you may not like this. Okay? Or if you're like, I have to have it look exactly like this or that, you may not like it until we get the API done, and then you can kind of build your own skin.
Yeah, I think one thing you guys have tried to do is make it so user-friendly or so practical that anyone can use it. And I really think anyone could benefit by it, but I think people will self-select themselves out of it, in a sense, because of maybe functions like that. Oh, you know what? It's not like what I'm used to, so I'm not interested. Oh, it doesn't look like I want it to look, so I'm not interested. But the functionality of it, which is really what makes it what it is too, that's why people appreciate it, and that's why they continue to pay for it and use it, and more people are getting excited about it because they realize, oh, I don't care it looks like, because it does everything.
Sure.
It does everything I want it to do, but I do think people will self-select themselves out of it, and not even that it couldn't help everyone, but sure, there may be people that they're just cruising along fine, and they feel comfortable in the system that they're working in. That doesn't mean that this couldn't be even more advantageous, but they're happy where they're at, or comfortable with it.
Absolutely. I'm fine with that as well. And another thing that's kind of interesting is some people might even kind of judge it on price. You're only charging $100 a month? Must not be anything. And so we literally are like, you know what? I would much rather have tons and tons of small businesses, mom and pops, where I don't have to compete with all this red tape, than having 5 clients that are paying $50,000, a month or a year or whatever it might be. But like, I would much rather get this out to people who need these kind of tools and who are interested. I think it's kind of fun in that way, type of deal.
Yeah.
Here's another kind of random question. So Shannon, I basically said, I need some help doing some of this and this and this. Where do you see some pieces that are either gaps that need to be filled, or that future and vision that you're kind of seeing as you've been involved? And I think it's great. I hope you're okay if I ask you that question, but like, and I have no problem talking about gaps. If you want to talk about gaps, you're asking the wrong person. That's like asking somebody like, is there anything wrong with your life? And like somebody might see you from the outside going, oh wow, that's awesome. But inside you're like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah. I'm not worried about that. Basically what I'm doing is like, what kind of vision can I even draw out of you? Or like, I'm just kind of looking for like speaking, if that makes sense, as far as what do you like?
I don't use it enough to see very many gaps within the system. I just haven't used it enough. And I don't have a purpose. I'm not driven by a purpose to use it. So when I'm in, it's just a show and tell. And I'm like, oh, it's really cool. Oh, I see how that could be helpful. So I'm not purpose-driven enough to find the gaps in maybe what I'm seeking. But I do see what you guys are saying, education being a huge aspect, because this is breaking tradition in so many ways. And it's a totally different approach. And it's a systems thinking mentality, which is so different already than a linear or something that's really maybe what we're used to or a more traditional setting. So already, which is great, you're kind of defying a lot of the traditional type settings, which is actually to such an advantage, but you have different responses to that. Some people are just really made uncomfortable by it. Some people really don't understand. Some people maybe feel like they don't have the time to learn. Or, I see a lot of learners come in and you want to explain to them concepts, and really if you have an understanding of concepts, that is so beneficial. But in their mind, they're on a brain platform of their own, and they're like, I just need this. I just need to know how to do this piece, and then when this piece is done, I'll be happy. I'll go back to my own little world. So sometimes it's hard to even help people understand maybe what they don't know, or even maybe what would be beneficial to them. Because in their mind, it's like, I just need it to function. I don't care what made you think of creating it, but to you, maybe you recognize the value and importance of, but if you understand how it's created, then you understand how it functions. Then in the end, maybe I have to do less work helping you figure it out. But sometimes there's a definite disconnect between that and understanding, oh, him teaching me concepts, or maybe these things that I don't feel like relate to me right now, or with my problem right in front of me, help me later. So education's huge, and marketing is huge, obviously, because I didn't read all of the email. I literally just skimmed it, but you and Steve were talking about something. I think you had a phone conversation with your cousin maybe, and he had basically said something to the effect of, you just need to simplify it. Essentially, like, you just need to keep it simpler. Is that what he said, basically?
That's what he kind of said, yeah.
And I didn't read all of Steve's, but just what I skimmed, it was almost like, or maybe I really just read one line, so maybe I'm saying this entirely wrong, but more or less, but Adilas is the package. Like, if you just say it's something really simple, you miss what it really is. But at that same time, I feel like there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of truth. But at the same time, you do have to balance those extremes, because you have people's attention in a marketing type setting for a very limited amount of time, actually. So you have to find that power statement, like an Adilas in 30 seconds. You know how they say that about career services? This is a me in 30 seconds. And not that it necessarily has to be 30 seconds, but I mean, I see how that could be challenging, like an Adilas in 30 seconds, because if you miss the idea of all that the package can offer, you don't understand, like, whoa, I am the full package. Adilas is the full package here. But
real quick, I just want to make a teeny comment, and it's just because like my conscience is pricking me right here. Okay,
yeah.
It's like we have taken concepts and putting them into action. Our code is worth a lot of money, but guess what's worth even more money? The concepts.
Yes.
And so we have taken one of 1,000 tunnels that we've found in this world that we're exploring, and there's no one else down here. And we literally, like that Bible story, we're saying, I think we ought to tell somebody about this. We have taken one of 1,000 ways. You could do this exact same thing, and if you get some studs in there, they could make it even better. What we have done is we've just taken concepts and put them into action. That we have done. That is actually more important than the physical code. The physical code is just like, how can I actually make this thing work, okay? But the concepts and actually realizing that they can be done, that is actually even more valuable. And that's why we need to share this.
Yeah.
We really do. We need to share this.
I agree. And I think that's why you teach to concepts. You teach to concepts. Even if someone asks you, hey, I need to get this done. I feel like other people, if you are at a function, like I'm just doing my job kind of a thing, you're going to say you do this step, this step, this step. But you are very much a conceptual teacher. Okay, here's the background. Let me lay it out. Let me give you, the whole context picture. Like, this is where it fits in the system. This is how it plays with all the other pieces around it. This is why it's important. So that would be a systems concept-based learning, thinking, style, everything. And that is more important. I agree with you.
Well, it depends on the person. If I have a burning platform, just give me those 3 steps, man. I just want to do them, and I'll do them over and over again until I'm blue in the face. Okay?
Exactly, but I was going to say there is a disconnect between some people don't want that, and or even if they may not be opposed to it, they may not understand how it's important to them, or they might not recognize their need for it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think either way, you'll have people that will appreciate the concept aspect, but yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, you are very much a conceptual teacher, and you understand the importance of it, so that's an important element that you should teach and do want to get out. But yeah, then I mean, for sure you do have those people that are like, I just want 1, 2, 3. Give me those steps, and I will be happy. I don't care about the rest.
So here's a concept that we're thinking of, and this is kind of where this is headed. Even this developer's notebook that we're kind of talking about, we're going to put it on a place called Adilas University, okay? And what we want to do with that, and this is totally just thoughts and concepts, but basically we want to take this concept and we want to say, what if we break down this into different things? Do you want to learn the concept? Do you want to learn the beginner step by step? Do you want to do the intermediate step by step? Do you want to do the advanced step by step? Do you want to get to the tech level? Like, what is really, like, beyond concept? This is physical code and databases and decisions and, like, settings and all this kind of stuff. But those are kind of the different levels that I'm seeing potentially at Adilas University, and then let people kind of virtually go and teach themselves and kind of go wherever they want. A non-linear learning tool where they could basically click in there and just kind of be like, you know what, I'd really be interested in concepts right here, and it looks like it's only a 5-minute video, and so cool, I can handle that. But if they're like, oh my goodness, I got to get this thing done right this second, they could go right to the beginner mode and watch, say there's 5 little 2-minute videos or something, and with a different little label off to the side. So everything's categorized into its little spot, and so they could be like, oh yeah, I just need to see how to add a new customer. Oh, that wasn't bad. And so all they watched was a 2-minute little micro clip on the beginner level, and all of a sudden it gets them going. And then maybe they might not even come back to Adilas University because they're like, oh, so if I add it, look, it automatically shows up over here. Oh, and so they're basically learning their own process almost by exploration with just a little bit of guidance. And so I am going to be pushing hard for this. I'm going to see if we can grab interns. I'm going to see if we can find the funding. I'm going to see if we can do whatever we need to do to get some of these pieces going. And we'll lay it out through GoToMeeting. We'll develop it. I need your help, Shannon, as well, to kind of be like helping me to do things. Because I'm required in other places to kind of do stuff. But if you can literally kind of be like, okay, according to your tick list that you made, looks like we're going to be doing this, okay? Prep it so it's kind of like, okay, almost even what we're doing right here. So some questions, like this could even work out if we wanted to, okay? So let's talk invoices. What's the concept level of invoices? And we record it, okay? And even if there's some rough spots in it, we basically record it and then we can refine it. Okay, what are some basic steps? And so basically if I know what's coming, I could be like, okay, basics for invoices would probably be this. Intermediate would probably be this. Oh, advanced, we're going to be editing and changing customers on the fly and hiding line items and all this kind of stuff. Like, it totally changes, and then we could kind of talk to that level. And then as the people are ready, if they wanted to, they could go consume any of this, or if they wanted to skip it completely and be like, you know what, just throw me into the water and hopefully I swim, then they can do that. They could. So anyway, I wanted to kind of make sure we had those kind of concepts. Concepts, beginners, intermediate, advanced, tech, and then also putting some scenarios kind of mixed in there, okay, at the different levels. Hey, this is the beginner scenario for invoices. Okay, how do I add labor? How do I add this? How do I search for this? How do I use a barcode scanner? You know, like, and depending on where we determine those levels, I think it would be cool if we could kind of categorize it to that type of. This is a huge project.
Yeah.
It's a huge project.
Yeah, but I think that would be amazing. That would really be such an incredible tool.
That this is kind of interesting, but just for the record, I know that you know, but somebody else, if they happen to be listening to this particular recording, don't know that I actually tried to create a product called Learn to Freeride. It's actually dealing with video. It's in a nonlinear format, and we skinned it with multiple different things, and we teach people how to do snowboarding, freestyle tricks and moves, beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's really cool. Like the actual layout, we have different levels. It basically says, get the skills, learn the moves, go ride. So you're almost enabling these people. What do you need before you get going? What do you need to actually do it? And where can you take it? Like that's kind of cool because it almost throws in some vision. And we had common mistakes and prerequisites and exercises. We had all these different things, but it fit into these three basic things, which was get the skills, learn the moves, go ride, which it would be totally different for Adilas, but it's still kind of like progression type building. So instead of going right to the tech level, it's like, okay, what does this thing do out of the box rather than how can I tweak it even more than that? So I think it's interesting. There's another little teeny thing that's racing in my head right now, and this is a way of kind of sharing it. If we're already talking about teaching people and eventually getting them to the enabled level, I'm going to kind of say this. First off, you have to learn it. You learn it, you live it, you love it, and then you share it. There's no way you can share it if you haven't done some of these other pieces, okay? You have to learn it, live it, love it, and then you share it. If it's really important and you really love it, you're going to be wanting and willing to share it. But if you're not, you're going to have to be like, where's the money? You know?
Yeah.
Pay me for that, and I'll think about it.
True.
So those are kind of some fun little aspects of it. Well, Shannon, I appreciate this. There's still just a couple minutes, and we don't have to go to a specific time. But did you want to kind of keep chatting, or did you have any other ideas or concepts? I appreciate it. It helps me to release some of the stuff that I want to get it out. I really do. So I'm kind of curious to even, I'm not sure how we're going to display it or what we're going to do, but this is actually part of the Adilas marketing plan as well. Sharing this thing will actually help it out. It really will.